Hello, we are live here for another Kobo Writing Life live Q&A, coming on our 3 streaming platforms. We're testing out some Instagram Live at the moment, so we're on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. Tikiri Herath is coming to talk to us this month. Thank you so much for joining us.
I'm delighted to be here. Thanks for having me, Tara.
Oh, we get to talk all things thrillers. So I'm excited to have such a kind of good conversation. And maybe you can talk. I'm such a wimp with things, so you can you can talk to me about getting over my hump of being a wimp with thrillers. But let us know where you're coming from in the comments. Would love to see. It is a beautiful fall day, or I should say autumn. My family will scold me. But it is a beautiful fall day here in Toronto, nice and sunny. The leaves are just starting to change. Not quite sweater weather, but almost there. And Kira, you were saying you're in Vancouver?
I am. So we're way behind you. I think we're getting a few red leaves here and there, but it's still warm. It's still sunny and the ocean's calm and it's supposed to rain tonight. We tell everybody it rains in Vancouver to keep them away, but it's really
It's a good tactic. Nice. Well, for people that aren't familiar, I'm going to read your introduction and then we'll get a little bit into our conversation. So, Takiri is a multiple award winning author of international crime thrillers and murder mystery novels. She has a bachelor's degree at the University of Victoria, Canada, and a master's degree in the Solvay Business School in Brussels, in Belgium. For 2 decades, she worked in risk management in the intelligence and defense sectors, including the Canadian federal government and at NATO in Europe. You're an adrenaline junkie who has rock climbed, bungee jumped, rode on the back of a motorcycle across Quebec, flown in an acrobatic airplane upside down, and parachuted solo. That is the most fun bio I think I've ever read.
oh.
Oh,
I want to
well,
go back now that you're talking about it.
I know it's so good. Well, thank you for joining us, and let's get started with maybe talking about your writing career. So, can you tell me a little bit how you got into writing, and then maybe a little bit about why you decided to go the indie publishing route?
Oh, sure. I, I I tell long stories, so just nudge me gently if I if I talk too long. But I want to say that I didn't write until late in life. Like everybody, I've been listening to your podcast and everyone, and I'm so envious. They say, "Oh, I knew I was going to be a writer when I was 5. When I was a toddler, I could do this." And I'm in awe of them because I didn't realize I could even write a narrative or a story until well into my career, and I think it came from I love books, and books have been always my saviors, my friends, my mentors, my teachers, and it's because my family moved so often. Every 2 to 3 years, we'd move to a new country, new place. They were moving for their jobs. We're the family. We're the family with all of our belongings in like a dozen suitcases sitting in the back of the plane. Everybody hates us in the lineup because we're taking space, but we were moving to find a new place, find a better life for ourselves. So send us to universities, get new jobs. I'm saying that because it wasn't a jet setting lifestyle. It was really work and school. But when you move so often, it's hard to make friends, and I didn't know that because I was just a kid and I thought everybody does this, right? But um but I could take a book from a library and read it, or I can buy a book and then I can, if when my parents will say, okay, pack your bags, we're going now to Tanzania. Okay, I'll pack it up and I'll take it with me. While that little Julie I met in the schoolyard, and I'm just getting to get to know her, invited to her birthday party, I can't pack her in my bag and take her with me. And then I'll go to this new place and I'll meet Chanda and try and make new friends. So I found myself finding solace and friendship in books. And I read voraciously all my life, because I think they help me make sense of the world. Anyway, I'm telling a long story to say that my entire life has been bookish. I'm a book gal, but it didn't took a really long time before I actually sat down and write. And there was a trip that triggered it, and I can tell that story later if you want. But until something strikes you to say maybe there's another path for you, you don't know, right? So anyway, I don't think I answered your question though.
No, no, that's great. I totally relate. I moved around, I don't think as much, but a little bit as a kid, and totally understood like being the new person and like having to make new friends all the time. I love that your books were your constant companion there. So when did you kind of start writing? Was it while you had built up the career, you were kind of doing it as a hobby? Like what made you kind of finish the first book?
Oh, so maybe I'll tell you a story. So this was about 15 years ago. My then husband, he worked for the Canadian federal government, and so did I. But he came home one day and he said, "Oh, I did an exam and I passed it, and we have a choice. Is it Brussels or Paris?" And I was like, "Oh, I didn't even know he did this exam, and he didn't think he'd pass it. It's one of those Canadian federal diplomatic interviews and the process you have to go through." And he didn't say anything because he didn't think he'd get it. And he said, he's French Canadian, so he said, I don't care if it's France or Belgium, because as long as they speak French, tabarnak, I'm fine. With my apologies to my Quebecois who are listening. So I thought, since I worked for the Canadian Intelligence Agency, it's a three-letter agency you probably haven't heard of, or maybe you have. It's equivalent to NSA in the US. So we do things in the quiet. But I worked as a risk manager there. And and I thought, wait, if you go to Brussels, NATO headquarters is there. That's where I can find a job. And I told my husband, I was so snotty about it too. I said, I'm a career woman. I'm not going to be some diplomatic spouse. I'm going to wear. I'm not wearing those gowns and sipping champagne. I'm going to go and I'm going to work. I'm going to be the working girl in Europe. And I did. We went to Brussels and I somehow pounded the pavement and I got a job. And all of my life I've been doing analytical work. Risk management is it's a bit of an art and science, but it's always looking at, I'm the one who moved multi-million dollars on a spreadsheet, did reports, large scale national project reports. So I'm using that part of the brain that's very analytical. And never in my wildest dreams did I think I could write a story. And I mean, or storytellers. Enid Blyton was whom I grew up with. And then I found myself, Tara, in a ballroom during that stint, in a ballroom in Vienna, in Austria. And it just happened because of the work we were doing. And here I was, we just had a 10-course meal, made by a Michelin star. And this is like in the cathedral, the Gothic Cathedral of Vienna. You probably have seen it where they entertain royalty and stuff. And I'm sitting there and I was in my gown and was sipping champagne. And as cheesy as it sounds, everything receded. And I was sitting there wondering, how did I get here? Like, how on earth did I end up in this place when all my life I've been in Africa, Asia, I've lived in different places. And when I lived, it was never sipping margaritas on a beach. It was on the bus, in a school, working with people, the locals, trying to understand their culture, their language. And I remember, Tara, the time when my parents moved. I think it was from Nairobi, Kenya. We moved overhaul to Sri Lanka, where I was born, but again, another short stint when we were going to go somewhere else. But I remember being invited to a fisherman's village for supper, and my parents driving us down to this tiny coastal village in the south of the island. And my mother turned to us, my sister and I, in the car and said, don't eat too much, don't be greedy when we go there, but accept everything they give you with graciousness and with gratitude. So Tara, we walked into this little mud hut with straw for a roof, and they have cow dung on the floor. I'm telling this story to say the contrast that I was trying to grapple with. And we sat down, and and oh yes, what really stunned me was when after my mother said, "Don't ask for seconds, but be gracious." She turned around and told my father. I don't think she knew we were listening, but she said, "Because his family invited us over, we're the honored guests. Half their family might not eat tonight." And I mean, I don't think she knew we heard it, but here we are sitting in this mud hut eating rice and fried fish, the most delicious meal in my life. And then I find myself in a Viennese ballroom. sipping champagne after a 10-course meal, where I'm next to the German ambassador in 1 second, and after a while you find yourself next to mini royalty. And I think it's the collusion of and those are just two things. There's so many other things you see. And Tara, when you travel to different places, and when you're a child, you're absorbing all these stories. So we came home that night. My then husband, he went to sleep, and I just sat down and I wrote everything out. And it's not something I ever did, because I did project reports and I did proposals, and I asked for money. And here I was writing a story about a girl who sat down and ate fried fish and rice, and I and then I couldn't stop. I kept writing all the other stories. The time I was in Thailand with my college students, and we thought very bravely and in our youthful exuberance to go into Burma and find the freedom fighters, and of course we didn't get in. We got chased out. But little things, or being in the back of a jeep in the middle of Serengeti. But you guys now all, I say you guys, everybody now goes glamping in Africa. We had a open jeep with a kid in the back with an AK-47. He's shaking like 15-year-old kid, supposed to keep the poachers away. My sister and I, we're all looking, and my parents and a driver, we're looking for the big five, the African big five, the elephant, the lion.
Right.
That's how we lived, right? So I just wrote these stories, these vignettes. And then my then husband and my friends, and I shared a few, and they said, you should put it into a book. I didn't. They are hidden in the recesses of the dark recesses of my computer, but that was the beginning of my write, that I even knew that I could write a
Mhm.
story that people might read, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of the old adage of like write what you know, and you happen to know these like spectacular situations where that not a lot of people get to witness. So that's really exciting. So using your experience with this and kind of honing your writing, what drew you to writing thrillers specifically? Was it just the excitement in kind of in that genre in particular?
I think maybe I've always been an adrenaline junkie. I mean, I celebrated my college, my University of Victoria when I graduated. I told 20 of my college friends we're going skydiving, and I'm going to go for free, solo. It's not that. Pardon my language. Not that we see where you get strapped to a guy and jump from 10,000 feet. No, we're going to go from 3,000. We're going to jump ourselves. So I don't know. Maybe it's just being in Africa and seeing that vast expanse, being in Asia and seeing all these people. Asia is like, for me, people, people, people. It's just so many, and Canada, which is magnificent. I guess all of that role. I'm sorry, I'm not answering your question. Let me just say that I wrote a story about a girl who traveled around the world, and I don't know where I got that idea from. And I wrote a book. It was a story from end to end, and because I was compelled to write it, and it was I think the vignettes helped me learn to write,
Yeah.
and that triggered writing this story. I joined the Canadian Authors Association, and they kind of nodded and said maybe you should hand it out to some people. And one day I thought, maybe I finished it, and I thought I'd hand it out to, like, they said this award people, so we just put it out there, not thinking anything, because I was still working, and I that first book, to my shock and awe, it won a few awards, some minor ones at first, and then Eric Hoffer came along, which is it's not the Booker Prize at all by any means, but it's big enough. And that told me, and then it won the finalist at the Nashville Bill Silver Falchion Award, and they invited me over, and I'm sitting there with my mentors, and I'm like, oh my God, these are like top 10, top 100 best-selling authors, and there's little me sitting doesn't even know how to write a book. So it was, I think that told me people will read what I will write. And they gave me the impetus to writing the next book and the next book. And I still didn't answer your question about thrillers.
No, that's okay. I mean, not a lot of people get like such accolades for a first book. So did that affect kind of writing the second one? Did it make it more daunting, or was it actually sort of did it set a fire under you?
Yeah, I was thinking, oh, maybe I can do this. Maybe
Hmm.
this is possible, because it was so different from what I did in my day job. And it was fun and it was enjoyable. I mean, I loved my job, but the bureaucracy can wear you down. And I
Mm.
work for an espionage agency. I work for the federal government. It's pretty cool. I loved working there, but I think I enjoy having control over and coming up with your own narrative, and I also think working in the defense sector gave me an indication of the villains out there, and and villains come in every shape, and some of them fly planes into buildings, some of them use children as shields, and sorry, I don't mean to make it dark, but they exist, and we worked to stop them. Um, and some of the things that we stop, you don't even know as Canadians or Americans. You think, oh, the things that happen that you wouldn't even realize would have happened unless it would have happened in the job anyway. Why am I telling you this?
But did
So,
you use that as part of your like, I guess because fiction lets you be very broad, was there inspiration where you're kind of like, hey, you guys don't even know that this actually almost happened?
no, I would never. I could never. So there's
Now,
one.
now we're both on some list somewhere. I'm sorry for asking that question.
No, I would love to write a spy thriller one day, but I don't think that's a smart idea. Let's just say.
Yeah.
And it's not because, like, you can, Tara, take me to the back rooms and pull my nails out. I have nothing to do. I really don't. To be clear, since we're speaking in public, I had nothing. I'm a risk manager. I did
Mhm.
corporate work for the executives. But at the same time, I was exposed to a view of the world that maybe most people aren't in the
Yeah.
espionage and defense fields. But this is going to sound funny, but some of the bad guys aren't doesn't have a machine gun in their hands and trying to get, or blow up buildings. They're my coworkers.
That's even more terrifying.
Yes. Yes. But when it comes to thrillers, I like the fast paced. I like the this happened, that happened, and have it go so quickly. Uh, I think I love reading thrillers like Michael Connelly, James Patterson, and David Baldacci. So because they're so international in the scope, but I wanted to write the same but with a female protagonist, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Nice. I like that kind of different aspect of it, or maybe not different, but something that you can bring to the table for your books. Just wondering if we're talking about kind of like the craft of writing thrillers a little bit, is there any common pitfall that you see authors falling into in the genre that you could maybe advise avoiding? Any sort of uh, misused tropes or anything?
I think this applies to every genre, Tara, because um, I like I'm in different author groups, and one of the things I hear is a lot of people who want to write thrillers, but they are so ingrained in their former genre that they stop asking what the reader wants.
Mm,
And I made the same mistake. My first series, it won awards, but do they sell as much? It doesn't have that large, expansive market like thrillers do. They are thrillers, but they're more suspense. The critics like them, but the common reader, I think, the biggest mistake that I made was not asking what does the reader want, um, and then and using a system, and because I am a risk manager, using a systematized process to figure out, read the books in the genre, the best-selling books, figure out what the reviewers say, and I have spreadsheets and spreadsheets of here's what they like about these books, here's what they don't like, here are the gaps, and hence can I fill in the gaps, and is that something I would enjoy doing? So when they say we don't like to see, we want a strong woman who stands up for themselves, and none of this oh save me stuff, which still you see, or if you pardon my language, running in high heels and your boobies are bouncing, like, come on, really? I worked with women. I worked with, I've military people. They don't, they're strong women. They're just normal people, mothers, sisters, wives, and but they do their job just like anyone else. So I think, so that aspect as well, I find in some of the books, they portray these women as some, because if they're not exposed to somebody who is really on the job, Then I go, like, come on, seriously? I don't know any women like that. I don't know women who, yeah, they wear makeup maybe, but they're out there and they do the job and they do a damn good job as it is. So, so the portrayal of women and also what the readers want probably are the two biggest things, I would say. But what readers want is not an easy question to answer. I struggled with it.
I think it's a great question, though, that you even kind of realized that it was something that needed to be asked. Like, I think that's good advice because, obviously you start writing because you love the writing or love the story. And yeah, that's good advice to an author who's kind of getting their start, is to really consider the reader. And then also, yeah, the female protagonist that, yes, having something more grounded in authenticity. It seems like, I mean, people just really like reading things that feel more authentic.
Right.
You detailed a little bit of the process there, but is there, do you have any more, like, can you give us some insights into like researching for like technical or procedural details that help make your books feel a bit more authentic?
Um, yeah, so let me go through them. So read the books, look at the reviews, and not and I think there's a difference between reading and studying. I read a lot of books, but then I also study them. That means I sit down and I study the craft. I study the and especially with nonfiction books, I sit down and make notes. And I That's just the way my brain works. I'm studying the reviews, talk and amassing an honest group of beta readers who read in the genre, who will tell me that's not right, that was a little iffy, that didn't make sense. Talking to experts in the field. So I'm very lucky. I live in a tiny little town, suburbs south of Vancouver, and for some reason, every year they put an emergency services meet and greet for the kids. So I'm the non-kid who goes and jumps on the tanks and, can I please get in the police car? And they'll give me the hat. I'm small too, so they'll give me the hat and the vest and the badge and take pictures with me.
I
But
love that. I would never have even thought. I passed like one of the police stations here the other day was doing an open house, and
oh,
I didn't even think that that would be great research for an author, but of course it is.
and they're fun too. And as soon as they know you're an author, they'll ask you for your bookmarks, and they'll go, oh, and they'll come back and say, my wife read your book.
So it's a sales opportunity, not just a research opportunity.
I mean, it's very. I met a forensics team in the last one. So we have a big Girls Can Fly event in Vancouver, near Vancouver, where an entire airport is opened up, and is to encourage women to get into become pilots. And in Canada, I love this country because of the way we really push women forward. We still need a prime minister, though, a female prime minister. Come on, people. Tara, maybe you're it. But at the girls' fly event, there was a forensics tent. I went to introduce myself. I'm an extrovert. I have no problem. If you don't like me, you don't like me. I don't care. But I will shake your hands and talk. And the two ladies said, "Sure, we can talk." And I met them again, just a couple of blocks from my house. They were having this open house, and I walked over, and the same lady was there, and she explained to me how thumbprints work, how I can hide a dead body without, and she was just explaining all these things to me. I was taking notes, recording her voice, and then I'm going to not dedicate, but acknowledge her in the next book that's coming out. Sorry, I haven't answered your question about research. Um,
Don't worry, I'm enjoying this. So go wherever it takes you.
I was like, I'm a terrible interviewer. Um, I think, oh, yes. And then I know people say don't read your own reviews, but I have enough books out now that I go there and I look at the 3 star. I ignore the 1 star, they're not my readers. 2 star, maybe if I have the intestinal fortitude, I might. But 3 stars, I try to read them and see, okay, just like I did for other people's books, what's missing, what's not. What do they not like, and do they make sense? So one book is set in Oregon, off the coast, on an island. It's the serial killer is running amok, and one of the reviewers said there are no islands off the coast of Oregon, and there are, and uh, you can just Google them. It's just there, but you ignore those because it's a reader who probably hasn't seen that, and so she thinks so. And and so that's a big thing. And one of the changes I made was because I went to British schools in Africa and Asia. I'm Canadian. I'm super confused with my spelling. I have an American editor, and I had at the beginning readers, an Australian reader, saying, "This author does not know how to write. She used the word thread in the wrong way." I'm like, "No, but that's how I learned. That's the Queen's English, which is what I learned." But so she didn't like it. So I had a little note in front saying, "I'm a mixed up girl, and I might say a few words that," and of course, my American editor will do the best to capture them. But if she doesn't, forgive me. And so maybe learning, studying, adjusting, and then going back, like what I did at school. Is that a cat behind you?
No, sorry, my dog is very into whatever is happening at the window, so my
No,
apologies.
no, I'm loving it. I'm loving it. Um,
But no, I'm exactly the same as you. I'm like, can I get a sort of disclaimer on all of my emails where I constantly think I'm misspelling things because I grew up in school in England and in Ireland,
oh
moved
wow.
to Canada where they accept both American and British. So I'm never fully sure about my spelling. So I'm just like very, very confused. But that's a good point to make around that. And I liked your point as well about taking the reading the reviews from 3-star and up, because I mean, I think it's very brave to read any of the reviews. That can be, you have to have that certain personality and
Yeah.
I guess, be having a good day when you're doing those things. But that's a great idea, is to just read the 3 and up. So I think there's a lot of good tidbits here for
But
for
I think,
people.
if I may, I would, sorry to interrupt, but I think that might be good when you're starting out. And after, once you're established with, I'm writing my 18th novel now. So I realize I have to look at my audience and say, what do they want? I'm going to cater to them. I'm no longer going to listen to readers who might not be part of my audience. They might be a wonderful audience for someone else. They might love other books, just not mine. So I think there comes a point when you need to have confidence and move on. And and it's a test and try and experiment process. Everything is marketing,
Mhm.
writing, life, period. I think.
Yeah, I guess once you've established your voice and like your confidence as a writer, you kind of just trust the readers are going to go with you to your 18th book and beyond.
Yeah, that's the hope.
Nice. Well, can you talk to me a little bit about like plot twists in your books? Do you know what is going to happen? Does it kind of take you by surprise sometimes? Is there any tips that you have for writing like a really good plot twist?
I can tell you how I do it, and you might not like it because it's my analytical brain coming in to play. But I did read Dean Wesley Smith's book, Writing into the Dark. I've watched so many, read books and so many courses on how you can write with your. I think it's the architect versus the gardener. I don't like pants or plotter, but architect. I'm an architect, but the gardeners fascinate me because you have to be an absolute genius to come up with all that only in your head. And Dean Wesley Smith is a genius, but I can't do that. And I've tried, Tara. I've tried and tried, and it just takes me so much longer. So I decided, okay, fine. I'm an architect. I'm gonna. That's who I am, and I'm gonna embrace it. So what I have done is. So in risk management, and this is where I'm probably going to lose half your audience. You're going to hate me and never talk to me again. But in risk management, we have something called. Have you heard of the black swan theory?
Remind me, perhaps. I don't
Okay.
know.
Uh, but not many people know about it because it's not something. It's only a bunch of nerds in intelligence world probably, and some university professors who talk about it. But so there, the white swans were when they sent the British convicts to Australia, the entire world, except for those who live already in Australia. When you said a swan, what comes to your mind? It's white. It's beautiful, long necked bird that's just and it's got white feathers. And when those convicts landed in Australia, they were stunned to see an exact replica of the white swan, but with black feathers. Even more beautiful, I would think. And can you? I mean, I've only seen pictures, but imagine a beautiful black swan gliding in front of you. So black swan events are in risk management, we say it's low probability but high impact. And not to get into the maths or technology, It's an event that takes you out of the blue. So, and there's a huge debate. COVID, was it a black swan or is it not? And 9/11, was it a black swan? And some people will say, no, well, we intelligence will say we knew it was coming all along. Politicians didn't listen to us. The COVID health officials might say it's not a black swan, but what are those black swans? So that was my world, and in the fictional world, I was thinking low impact, low probability, high impact. That's exactly what a plot twist is. It's the unexpected that throws you off, that shuts down an entire world, that shakes New York to the core. I'm giving examples from real life here. So how can I recreate that in the fictional world? And I just create black swans at the end. I know what the and several of them baby black swans, and then a big mama black swan at the end. But and then of course a second black swan, so people go, wait a minute, I thought it was X, but now it's Y. What are you talking about? And you make them, give them a whiplash at the end. My readers write to me and tell them, I was up all night, I hate you. And that's what I love. And I say, thank you, I love you too. But anyway, all to say is that, but instead of the black swans, instead of just the swans, I put black feathers throughout the story. This is a terrible analogy. Only a few people are going to get this. But if I can put those little black feathers and then they slowly come together and form this creature at the end, which they never expected, but of course you should have, because I gave you clues. So I do plot it from the beginning, because it's kind of the reverse of what I did for my work. For my work was figure out, let's say you're the risk girl, go figure it out. What is it going to be like 10 years, 5 years, 100 years? How do we do strategic planning? What are the risks to our organization, our country, our nation, what have you? Okay, but how can I do it the other way around and put that horrible thing or scary thing or the unexpected thing that'll flash in your face, but then slowly build it up? Does that help you at all? I have a twist.
Yeah, no, I love that. You're kind of starting from your plot twist and then writing your story backwards almost. Is that what I'm hearing? Like, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I don't really. I mean, I sit down and I find freehand really helps. So when I
Interesting.
do you find that it helps you think better? Or
I mean, I'm a note taker. So yes, but I know a lot of people, especially writers, it wouldn't be as common to freehand, like maybe the outlines, but
yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Mm.
I mean, I would never. I couldn't. I don't think I could write a story freehand. But I sit down and I just write out a story, like I did the vignettes when
Mhm.
of my travel memories. I just write a story of X happened, Y happened, Z happened, and then the black swan is this. And no, instead of Peter, like it's Jane. Jane's the bad guy, and Jane's gonna kill them all and da da da, or blow up the place, what have you. And then I take that and I flesh it out. So and I love James Scott Bell's books, story structure, conflict and suspense. I've read Save the Cat. I've read most of the plotting books, but his books were the most resonate with the thriller genre, because he writes
Mhm.
thrillers too. And I look at it's like the hero's journey, but
Right.
with a thriller perspective. And how do you get them from A to Z, and then litter the clues in the middle, the little black feathers, and then the black swan in the end. So I write all of that, I flesh it out some more, and I have about a 5,000 to 10,000 outline. And that's just me. That's just my anal retentive analytical, my work brain, pardon my language. And once I have that, then I sit down, and then the fun happens, because now I have the outline and I know what the black swans are. And that could change, but I sit there every morning. I get up for about 2 months, and I say, oh my God, today John is going to die, and that's what my plot says. Or he's gonna. Right now, I'm writing a book. Spoiler alert, I guess. Somebody's going to be in a small Cessna, fixed wing, single engine small plane with a two-seater, and the pilot's going to jump out, leave this poor guy hanging on. A lawyer who has no understanding of the controls is screaming for his, and he's going to crash. Is he going to live or not is another story. But why am I telling you this? I know that's going to happen, but the writing of it, using the words and keeping it I think someone said, make everything do double duty. Who said it?
Oh.
Like the scenes, so the
Hmm.
scenes are dark. It's this cloud, there are clouds while the little plane is coming, or it could be sunny but there's something else happening.
Right.
I don't know, or a storm brewing in the distance. And then so now I can write it out and make sure that every word that's uttered, every phrase that I write brings in the fear, the suspense, and that's the fun part, because then I'm just sitting there going, I can't believe I'm doing this. I can't believe this is what I do. Like, I don't have to read reports and move money across spreadsheets. I just have to write the story about a guy dying or dying or not, falling in a plane crash. How cool is that? And I think that is an art. So I've done the science and now I do the art. That I don't know if that helps at all.
Yeah, it does. That sounds like a lot of fun. I like the explanation of the Black Swan. I haven't heard that in terms of like literature, writing, or anything. You've talked a lot about your favorite kind of writing books. So I'm wondering, is there any of your favorite plot twists or Black Swans in literature or film? Like which ones really stand out to you as like your favorite or most inspiring?
It's hard to say. I think in general, I like the ones where where I can. I think Steve Jobs always says, he said you can always connect the dot backwards.
Mm,
If I can do that, that means the author's done a wonderful job. And I strive to do that. I fail sometimes, and readers let me know. The best plot twists. And this is going to, and the ones, because I've been studying this from a book by, oh gosh, what is this book? Not many people like, it's John Truby's book. He talks about the China, uh, what's the movie called? China, where, oh, I can't think of it. It's a really old movie, way before my time and your time. China Girl. Anyway, when the daughter is actually the sister.
no.
This is in the psychological realm, thriller realm, but it's just a shock to know that the relationship connections are not what they seem to be, and
Mm,
all of a sudden you're like, oh, that is my lost mother. She's actually my sister because of untold actions that have happened, things that
mhm.
are very horrible. But I like those plot twists where relationships come to light, where you just, and it's so, anyone can relate to that, because you can say, oh my God, that could happen to me. This is not the big guns and tanks and the, in Afghanistan or where have you, where you're fighting bad guys. This is just stuff that happens to you, could happen to you and I, but thankfully they haven't, and hopefully they won't. But so that way people can, and a good example is Frida McFadden's book, the first book, Housemaid, where the, and spoiler alert, but the maid and the wife, who their roles are and where their intentions come in. I'm trying not to tell too much. It's a shock. It's a shock because it is so unexpected,
Mhm.
and yet at the same time, and you can connect the dots back, and at the same time, it's so, oh my God, that could have happened to me. Kind of, if that makes any sense, I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah. Richard got the film for us is Chinatown, where John
Ah,
Huston
yes,
plays the father,
yes, yes,
and
yes.
with Faye Dunaway as well. So just popping that up.
Thank you. Sorry, I didn't remember that.
No worries. I think a good thriller or plot twist to me is because I'm such a wimp, something that forces me to Google what's going to happen, so I know.
Oh,
'Cause
no, no, no,
and
don't
I
do
just
that.
it's the tension gets too much for me. um, but let's talk a little bit about marketing of thrillers. Then I have to assume you've talked a little bit about your background in risk management and being really analytical. So how has that sort of helped you in terms of like indie publishing and marketing your books?
I decided from the beginning I am going to start a business. I didn't leave a six-figure job that I enjoyed, but I didn't like the politics. I didn't like the bureaucracy, but I didn't leave that to sit on the beach and drink margaritas. I wanted to try my hand at entrepreneurship, so I created a business plan. I created a 10-year vision. I did what I was taught in my MBA programs, and what I did for work. I created long-term plans. I thought if I can plan a $900 million program. Now I'm playing with other people's money. This is our collective taxpayer money, I should say. And I try to do my best to make sure the money's spent properly. But if I can do that, then surely I can try my hand at planning my tiny little book business. So, and people may laugh at me. I try not to share it too much because it sounds too grand, but I did a business plan. And now I've started to create quarterly marketing plans. So
Mm.
quarter 1, this is what I need to do. And then I update it in quarter 2. I just updated my quarter 4 marketing plan. My business plan, it flows into the second year. And on top, I say in 10 years, this is where I want to be. And so if I want that black swan again, how do you work backwards? And it's not a black swan. Hopefully it'll be a really white swan that's predictable. And
Like a golden swan.
yes. Um, so I think those two things help. And then I looked around me, and the biggest lesson I learned, Tara, and I lost a lot of money. And every dollar I have put into my business is every dollar I saved from my business. And before I left, I made sure to put my financial house in order.
Mhm.
And because I have a finance background, I'm not a finance background, but I did project management and I worked with money. I thought every dollar that I have. So it's my sweat, blood, and tears, right? Which makes me more honed in on what I'm going to do.
Mhm.
If I think if you have a whole lot of money, then you just throw it willy nilly. And I've seen people do that. Even having said that, I made a lot of mistakes. And the biggest mistake I made was listening to people perhaps who meant well, but who I shouldn't have taken the advice to heart and followed a route that wasn't helpful,
Mm.
because either they made their money and did marketing during the gold rush era with techniques that no longer work, or perhaps they had other extenuating circumstances that I don't have access to, things like that. So really to ask and listen and learn. I take as many courses as I can. I haven't attended conferences, but I do them virtually, and I read as many marketing books, like everything from Robert Ryan's blurb, his amazing blurb writing, copywriting book, Elena Johnson's rapid release books, and Monica Leonel, all about the wide. I love those books. Erin writes again wide courses, so as much as I can. And then I ask myself, from everything I'm learning and on an ongoing basis, which ones really work? Does author X or technique X still work today? Sometimes you have to try things out, right? And you have to fail. So I did ads, Facebook ads and Amazon ads, and I thought, oh my God, I have an award-winning book. It's gonna sell like gangbusters. Let me do Facebook ads. I spent $6,000 of my hard-earned money, which is my savings, which is what's helping me to buy my groceries. I just put it in there, and I lost it all. So that's a big lesson for me. And I think what helped was to slowly figure out, who do I listen to? I don't care if they're on the top of the pyramid. Their techniques might not apply to me, and their techniques might not apply today. Anyway, I'm sorry, I'm repeating myself. I guess I'm telling myself, Tikiri, remember that. Sorry, you asked me about marketing.
No, I think that's good. You're sort of saying that like you're very involved in like what the indie community is doing, and I'm sure it can be overwhelming. So I'm always like a little bit curious about how people do sift through and find the stuff that really works for them. But like I think you said, it's like trial and error with experimentation and being willing to kind of absorb it all. How much has kind of like the indie author community helped with you figuring out what works?
I hope I don't make any. People are going to stop talking to me after this. It worked, it helped, and some of it didn't help. The part that didn't help was the good intentioned advice that made me lose a lot of money.
Yeah.
So I think what I learned from that is to ask a lot of questions. When
Mm.
someone comes to me and says, and I get this often. Oh, I've done XYZ. Let me be your coach for $2,000. I mean, okay, fine, cool. Now my principle is, if you're going to coach me, and if you're going to give me any advice, you have to have sold 10x books as I have. You have to be making 10x of me, and you have to show a current record that you are continuing to do so. I don't usually tell that, but now I have out loud. But those are my principles. If you haven't, I might listen to you politely, but I will walk away and say thank you and leave it behind. So I think having those standards and then asking questions to figure them out in the most polite way as possible,
Hmm.
and then knowing to say, oh, okay, well, that's interesting, and walk away and not let that, or people will say, oh my God, TikTok, isn't that great? I'm making six figures. I make millions of dollars in TikTok. Cool. But how did you do it? What genre do you write? How many books? Ask really detailed questions. And what's funny, Tara, is people self-select out. When you start asking a lot of questions, they're like, oh, you're such a pain. I don't answer your questions. And because they can't, they don't want to, or they don't have the substance to back up their claims, they walk away before I do. So that's cool. But I think asking those detailed questions have helped me. And then the same vein, how the indie community has helped me was because I'm not alone. I'm just one person right now. I have editors and cover designers and people who help me out, but you feel like, oh, we're all in this marathon together. It's not a race for me. I have given myself 10 years. So we'll see how that goes. If not, what a ride, right?
I love that. Yeah, like I like all of it. Everything you're saying is really beneficial. I think one thing that people don't take into account when you're talking about, like jumping on the new trends or like what's working for people is really valuing your time as well. Like, how much time did you put into trying to make that work? And is it worth the effort or the return? So when it comes to your balancing of time, like how do you balance like writing with doing the business side of things? Like, do you kind of split your day, or is it like week to week, or do you have a good tactic for that?
That's a really good question, but again, I want to go back to first principles. My principle, or a standard I have, or something that I try to hone in my head is, I can always make more money, but I can't make more time. And
Mm,
and time goes by, and I've got this year. Boy, Christmas is coming up. They're already putting Halloween stuff out.
I know.
Time can never be bought. So if I am going to do something, it has to be worth the time that I put in. And I think a lot of people, I was reading Dan Martell. I listen to a lot of business podcasts. I don't know if he's Canadian, by the way, and he's this big Silicon Valley guy. But he talks about how a lot of people, they spend a lot of they spend all their time to cut coupons and run around and get the best gas prices, what have you, when you have only a limited time of life left. Tomorrow is not guaranteed. This is a gift, guys. And if you can think like that, and Dan says, well, why would you do that? Why don't you pay someone to do the groceries for you, clean your house, and do the work that you enjoy? So that's something I tell myself. So having said that, I do, Saturday is my marketing day. Monday, when I write, Monday to Friday is, I try to put in 2,500 words a day.
Oh,
And then
wow.
Saturday is just, I just sit there and I go, oh, cool. Now I have my quarterly marketing plan already made. So I look at that, and then so this is my anal retentive. I do, have you heard of the Eisenhower matrix, where it's importance versus urgence? So
Mm.
it's just a very simple way to prioritize your work according to the importance and the urgency of the task or the project. So I used to manage my projects that way, because when you manage large scale projects, it's just, and you have people around the country or around the world, it's really, you have to prioritize them. So I have under my, so think of it like a square with four quadrants, and in the top right hand is what is the most important and what is the most urgent. And my job is to keep that as small as possible, because if everything is urgent and everything is important, I'm just roaring. That just
Hmm.
that's when you burn out. But if everything's low important and urgent, then you're just, I mean, really, what kind of a life is that, right? You're working so hard on things that do not matter. So anyway, you have this matrix, and that's how I place my quarterly marketing plan. So on Saturday I say, okay, what is the most urgent thing that I have to do, most important thing, and it's also urgent. Hopefully there are fewer. What I try to have is the bottom left hand quadrant. I hope I'm doing this right, where it's important but not urgent. That's the best place to spend all my time. So I take those and then I do it. So it might be apply to a BookBub feature deal, set up stacked ads for this new book, or whatever it is, or I don't know. I can't. I have to get my marketing plan out, but so I do that on Saturdays. But and this is where I need to do better. Sunday morning is my day off. I'm supposed to be at the beach. I'm supposed to be running back and forth. But Sunday morning, I wake up early and I'm in front of my computer. And I try not to, but it's hard.
Well, I guess when your work is your passion, it can be hard to switch it off, but you should take a break for sure.
I know. No, that's terrible. That's the one thing that now that I've told you, maybe I'll think, oh, Tara's watching over me.
Yeah, no, you can. Yeah, I'm definitely encouraging you to take breaks and vacation. Take time for yourself. That's really good advice. I like it's like interesting insights to get like a more corporate project management and being able to use the same sort of principles in the kind of writing marketing world. Maybe there's a nonfiction writing book in you. No?
No, I already wrote.
You're like,
I,
absolutely not.
and I'll tell you why, Tara. Because when I said goodbye to my job, everybody was like, "You must be kidding me! You've gone in, so something's happened." But I discovered the love of writing, and also I discovered memento mori. Life is short. And my then husband had a motorcycle accident, which really woke me up because this is a big, hefty, big guy who he was a diplomat, he was an economist, doing so well in life, and then in the hospital in a coma, induced coma for just a few days. He came back roaring, he's fine, and he bought another motorcycle. but
Wow.
but the point is, yeah, and but the point is, life is short was what I learned sitting. But that experience just shook me.
Hmm.
So yes, something did happen to make that switch. But I'm going somewhere with this, which I was going to tell you something
You're
about
not
it.
going to write a nonfiction book.
Oh yes, because as soon as I decided to quit my job, everybody told me you need to write nonfiction because you can do project management and da da da. And I did. I got 4 books out, and it's all about changing careers,
Hmm.
designing the life that you want, and all of that stuff. Number one, I hated writing them. Number two, they don't sell. I don't even want to. It's like they sit here, like right here. Cool, but it's funny because I think I wrote them for myself because I have a book about habits, and I'm very big on micro habits that become big habits that design my life. So I have an entire book that tells me sleep 8 hours, work out every morning 5 days a week, meditate. As cheesy as it sounds, it helps, and so on, and eat healthy, and design that life so it becomes a habit that I don't even think about it. Like, and then yes, I work out every morning. I don't want to, but the mat is already rolled out and I'm just going to get on it. Anyway, I'm telling you all this to say I wrote them for myself, and then I decided I never want to write nonfiction ever again. Sorry, I'm telling you so many stories and not much.
No, no. I mean, I think that's great that you're able to get something out of it, and especially with like being an indie author, like you can sort of choose the direction to go into. If like now I actually do want to write this nonfiction book, or no, the next 10 years I'm only writing thrillers. You have the control and like the power to do that. So that's really awesome.
And thrillers all the way. Oh my god, I
Yeah.
like no. I'm gonna. That's the world I'm enjoying so much.
Nice, nice. So what's coming up next for you? So what are you working on right now? Like what's your Q4 plan look like?
I'm writing my 18th novel, which is the 6th book in my crime thriller series with an FBI detective and a canine. Everybody loves my canine dog, and he's the favorite character. I do look tons of surveys, within my newsletter sequences. So anyway, why am I telling you this? So once that's done, I was thinking of writing a new series, but if this people are liking these books, so I think I'm gonna write book 7 and 8. So my next year's plan, I've already kind of written it out in pencil, and I was thinking maybe I'll write 3 more books of that, make it the long thriller readers like long series, and
Mhm.
if as long as I they say you can commit genocide in your books, but do not touch a hair of that dog. I will
No.
no. So Max is gonna be happy and he's gonna catch bad guys, and I'm enjoying it. So I think 3 more of them, and then of course I will look back and say, are they selling? Is there a read through? Is this something I can continue and then pivot? Um, but I want to do that in a analytical way, if that makes any sense.
No, absolutely. And once you have the longer series as well, you can bundle them and put
Oh,
them on box sets because I know our Kobo readers really love that. So that's kind of a plus of maintaining a longer series. Or you could do multiple box sets as well. Like that's
oh,
cool.
wow. Oh, I want to do that. And I know
Yes,
Kobo readers love them. So that's
they
my,
do.
okay, I'm going to add that to my plan. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. No problem. So where can viewers find you online?
TikiriHerath.com. First name, last name. I know it's an unusual name, but it's not that hard.
No, I think Vanessa's dropping the a link into the chat as well, so people can find it there. And yeah, I'm so excited. So, is that your normal? Do you write 3 books a year? Is the plan for next year? Is that your normal like workflow? That's so many.
No, I actually used to write 4, and then I realized my marketing needs time. And I think that sustainability is more important to me. And I know people can write books once a month, they throw it out now that they have AI and ghostwriters. There's a lot of stuff happening, but I'm going to stick to my lane, do what I love to do, and create an audience and readers that like that. And they're used to a book, 3 to 4 books a year. So I think I'm going to continue doing that because I need to stay healthy. I need to, I mean, again, tomorrow's not guaranteed. I might say goodbye tomorrow, but today I'm going to have fun. And if I have to have fun, I have to stay healthy. I have to eat well. I have to take Sundays off.
You have to, and Saturdays. I would dare say only work 5 days a week.
Oh, I would love that. I'm not there yet.
But no, you can tell that this is really your passion. So I think all it's a balance, right? You want to when you have the energy and the passion for it, go all in. I think that's
Yeah.
also conflicting advice. But yeah, maybe you just need a total week off where you just don't do anything. Do you take vacation at all, or do you take like adventure vacations?
I try, but ever since I left my job, one of the things I learned was in my job, I dreaded Mondays. I looked forward to Fridays. I do want to reiterate, I love my risk management job. It's so intellectually challenging and it's so exciting because you're in the forefront of so many things, interesting things that not everybody gets to see. Yet it's where you put your lane out around your neck. You walk into an office and you sit in your cubicle and everything's gray, and then you go and do PowerPoint presentations. And I told myself I'm going to do something for the next part of my life, and I think we are in phases, right?
Mhm.
We live like at the next decade. How can I make sure that I enjoy Mondays and my work becomes a vocation that I just can't leave? And I think that's kind of backfired a bit. But I think, but that's where I am right now. So I have work to do.
Nice. Well, hire me as your coach. I'll tell you when to vacation. I'll just message you and be like, don't work on
I will.
Sundays. Like that's all I'll do. I'll be a time off coach. Do those
Oh,
exist?
that's awesome. Oh, you do well. You do
I'm
well.
just kidding.
And I would, yeah, adventure vacations are awesome. And I need to, and I think what happened is when I left the government, I left the group of people I could go rock climbing with. And
Right.
moving to Vancouver, it was like, oh, okay, now I have to start creating a new groups who like that kind of thing. It's very hard to find
Mhm.
the hiking and the running and doing stuff that's enjoyable because hey, I have all my limbs. There are people, and I've been around the world and back, and I've seen especially what women who do not have the same rights as we have. And it was the fire burning in my belly to write my first series because I had to get it out. There are lots of things that we can get angry about, or we can actually put it into some constructive way. If it's a novel that people read, that's good enough for
Yeah.
me for now. But all to say is, I mean, if we wake up every morning, especially you and I, Tara, in the best country on earth, in my opinion, where women have so many rights, where we have freedom of speech, freedom of expression. I mean, how could you not jump out of bed going, oh my God? I'm sorry, I'm totally going off topic.
No, I love it. Your passion is really infectious. I'm so glad that we got to chat today. It's been really my pleasure. Thank you for coming on. And I hope everyone had a nice time chatting. I think the details are in the chat as well. There's some good conversation. And Takiri, we'll have to have you back. I can't wait to see what you get up to even more.
Thank you for having me. I thank you so much, Tara. It was lovely to chat with you.
No worries. Bye. We'll see you all next month.